Good afternoon, dear friends. My name is Alexey Yurov. I'm an expert on alcoholism, drug addiction, psychological assistance to relatives of addicts, and family issues. Today, we will talk about the main 5 mistakes made by relatives of people who suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction. There is no secret that addiction is a family disease, and the way how loved ones behave towards an alcoholic or towards a drug addict largely determines his behavior and largely determines his motivation for recovery. So, there are top 5 mistakes that relatives of an addicted one most often make and that most often exacerbate this situation. Mistake number 1 is control. Many relatives control every step of their addicted alcoholic or drug addict. And naturally, on the one hand, this seems normal because addicts often behave insecurely. They often behave like small children, that is, they can get into some kind of trouble, in some kind of difficult situation, and so on. Why is this nevertheless a mistake? This is a mistake for one simple reason. When a person is controlled a lot, he doesn't really take responsibility for himself. He doesn't grow up, he doesn't grow, he doesn't improve, and he gets used to this state when he is controlled. And accordingly, when there is strong control, no motivation for recovery can really arise. So you will ask what to do, how to proceed, how not to control, and this is a rather complicated question. Follow the link in the description for this video and you will receive a file with useful and free information and answers to this and other questions on the topic. Mistake number 2 is salvation. Many relatives of an alcoholic or drug addict often save him from the consequences of drinking alcohol or taking drugs. They pay money for him, they help him to get a job or get into an educational institution, and they constantly treat him in clinics, limiting himself only to drugs to get him out of his painful state. So, what do they really save their addicts from? They actually save him from the consequences of his own addiction, of his own decisions. Imagine, a person takes alcohol or takes drugs, leads a very unhealthy lifestyle, and for sure, this all has negative consequences. Problems in the family, problems with health, unhealthy lifestyle, problems at work, and very often problems with law, crimes and offenses are committed. And when relatives forgive and smooth out all these consequences, their addict has the only one thought. Since I can do everything, since I am always saved by my close people, then I can continue to use it further. That is, salvation lowers the motivation of a dependent person for recovering. And at the same time, the dependent cannot answer himself a question why he needs to stop using it, why he really needs to change something in his life, because all the consequences are smoothed out. Mistake number 3 is charge. Many relatives, for example, it can be a wife whose husband abuses alcohol, she very often scolds him and blames him and says that he spoiled her whole life. And of course, this is partially true. But there is one very important point. If your family has dependents or your friends have dependents in the family, remember how many times they were scolded and blamed. And the most interesting thing here is that it had no effect at all. The addict continued to drink alcohol. What is this talking about? Maybe the addict feels this guilt. But he is used to drown in this guilt with alcohol or with drugs. He does not know what to do. He can blame himself and he can be ashamed, but this does not really push him to recovery. Dependence is a disease and it needs to be treated comprehensively. Just blaming a person can make it possible to use even more from feelings of guilt and remorse and so on. Mistake number 4 is pity. Very often, in a family where children are addicted to alcohol or drugs, a mother, for example, can pity her son and treats him like a small and a sick child. But the dependent is already rather big, and he is not a child, and possibly he is not so sick. This is in most cases an adult male who just abuses alcohol. Why is it harmful to pity him? Because, in order for something to change in his life, he must really take responsibility for it. But according to the mother, how can a small child take responsibility for himself? It seems to her to be impossible. Therefore, here is a very important point. Doesn't apply to a dependent person as to a small, sick child. He should be treated as an adult who has problems, and more often, he needs to be called to account for his actions. The more sorry the dependent gets, the more he'll think that he is little and sick and will always stay in the position of the victim and won't want to change anything. Final mistake, mistake number 5, is justification. Very often I hear from my clients that they justify their loved ones that he or she uses alcohol or drugs. They say he uses it because of problems at work, that many people in the city use it, that he has a difficult family situation, or that he is extremely sensitive and it's difficult for him to be a part of this world. That is, relatives in every possible way justify their loved one in use, and at the same time, they themselves participate in his illness. The addict sees that others agree with him, that he uses alcohol for some particular reasons. And these reasons can be hundreds and thousands. You can create any excuse for drinking alcohol or taking drugs. If you justify that your relative is drinking alcohol or drugs for some particular reasons, you will support his addiction. And this will prevent him from embarking on a recovery path. So, I have cited 5 main mistakes that are made in relation to the addicted alcoholic or drug addict. I want to remind you that these mistakes can seriously slow down the recovery process. This is control, this is salvation, this is accusation, pity, and this is justification. Here are 5 elements of recovery of your loved one. Anyone can be cured, and if you wish this, you can help your loved ones, and you really need to have a strategy and to have a clear action plan. Subscribe to my channel, write in the comments the topics that you would like to hear, and I remind you that there is a description of our video, and here you can see a link through which you will receive free useful materials on how to help an addicted person from alcoholism or drug addiction. Good luck to you. It was Alexey Yurov with you.